Just going back to the pricing energy and sats, you've been involved with mining companies. Do they themselves operate on a Bitcoin standard in that they're mining Bitcoin and they're considering the energy they buy, even though they probably have to pay dollars, but are they considering it? Are they on a Bitcoin standard themselves?
Some are. I can't talk specifics about companies I'm working with, but like we're talking. I'll just say generally throughout the industry, people are having conversations in oil and gas specifically where, all right, you can get your natural gas, whether it be flared or stranded, and turn it into sats and get that previously wasted resource and turn it into significant revenue. There are plenty of oil and gas companies, particularly more smaller, middle-sized producers that want to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and they're doing that. But I think that will accelerate, and that will actually, oil and gas specifically will drive the transition to a Bitcoin standard and start pricing their commodities in sats because they're going to have that Bitcoin on the balance sheet. They're going to see it appreciate. They're going to be like, why would I ever sell my precious oil for dollars on the open market? Like I'm seeing what my sats production is doing for my balance sheet on the natural gas side. Like I do want to begin selling oil in sats as well. And what will be funny to say, and I said this at the Houston meetup a couple months ago, is what would be really interesting to see, not funny to see, very interesting to see, is what happens. Like, do Bitcoin miners become energy producers first, or do energy producers become massive Bitcoin miners first? Like, who becomes who's first? That's what I think the biggest question in the convergence of the mining and energy sectors is right now.
Or is it just both and there'll be some mergers and acquisitions?
There'll definitely be mergers and acquisitions. I want, like the mining operations I'm involved in, I want to become an energy producer. I want to own natural gas. I want to own oil wells and sell oil to market for sats because you need to. If you want to survive mining again is a industry and an endeavor that demands you to vertically integrate as much as you can, from the construction of the where your miners sit to the energy source that is used to get converted into electricity, to the thing that converts that thing to electricity. And then beyond that, at a certain scale, you can create your own mining pool. Then you have hash rate derivatives. Like, miners are replacing central banks. The energy sector via mining is going to replace the central banking system.
Well, it's a bit like exchanges. Do they become banks or banks become exchanges? Like in the same kind of like...
Well, that's another thing too. Like, and when we're playing this out 10, 20 years, like, do miners just become exchanges as well? Because I think this is something that's not talked about a lot in the industry, but something I'm very passionate. I don't know if passionate's the right word, but I have a very strong belief that at some point in the next 10 years, as Bitcoin appreciates and people really begin to adopt Bitcoin en masse across the world, exchanges are going to have liquidity problems. Like, they're going to have problems finding liquidity to sell Bitcoin to people. Like, eventually exchanges won't even matter because we'll be on a Bitcoin standard. But if exchanges do want to persist and evolve, they're going to need access to liquidity and sats liquidity. And so I actually think if you're an exchange right now, you should be getting exposure to mining companies because they're going to be liquidity providers for you in the future. Like, the OTC desk, I could see drying up, and like the only source of liquidity being mining entities. And so I think, thinking 10, 20 years ahead, if you're an exchange and you want to survive and thrive and evolve to what the market needs at that given point in time, like getting ownership stake in a miner, or creating a forward contract market where you can pre-buy Bitcoin via miner by paying cash up front that allows them to expand their operations, and then you can buy sats at a discount to market in the future. I think that part of the market needs to evolve. Could be wrong, but I think structurally, in my mind, seeing how this plays out, that's where it will go as more people adopt Bitcoin. You have somewhat of a liquidity dry up on the exchange side.
It's interesting, these markets that are kind of propping up, and the way you look at it in the future, that there's going to be markets for sats, there's going to be new markets for energy, new markets for even hash power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that are going to be traded.
Okay. People are discussing whether or not there will be futures markets for fees for block space.
Yeah.
We're at the very early days. That's why it's so exciting.